So this week we have another guest, Dr. Siew You, who is the Clinical Director and Deputy Executive Director of Shan You Counselling Center. Now, as a clinical psychologist, Dr. Siew has worked in multiple mental health settings, including a public tertiary acute care hospital, a community-based center for addiction recovery, 2 private psychiatric clinics, and Changi Prison. His primary professional interest is in using mindfulness-based approaches like mindfulness-based cognitive therapy and acceptance and commitment therapy to help persons with mental health conditions. A very warm welcome to you, Dr. Siew.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Great. So based on the work that you're currently doing with Shan You, what would you say are some of the mental health challenges faced by our youth today?
I think in terms of understanding mental health challenges, in terms of understanding from the perspective of our work, because primarily we are a counseling center, so we provide counseling services to the community. That includes youths and young persons. So in terms of understanding how mental health challenges come about, we can understand it for youths in terms of 2 broad categories. So the first category applies to people across all age groups, right? So the first category, there are actually a number of broad factors that can contribute to someone experiencing mental health issues, mental health challenges. That would include one's experience in the family of origin, whether the person experienced earlier life experiences like prolonged stress, experience trauma earlier in life, or abuse. So there are other factors like chemical imbalance in the brain for certain mental health conditions. And sometimes prolonged life stressors can also trigger mental health conditions. So prolonged life stressors like being on long-term unemployment or being diagnosed with a serious medical condition. So these are a set of broad factors that will affect people and that could lead to the development of mental health conditions, mental health challenges. However, for young person, there are also a unique set of factors that would increase their vulnerability to experience mental health challenges. Because for youths, especially those aged between 13 to 17, or even young adults, age 18 and above, they would be experiencing multiple changes and transitions during this developmental age. And many of these changes and transitions involve school demands, school work, moving from secondary school to JC to polytechnic to tertiary education. And also during this period, they also gain more independence and they start to form significant and serious relationship with their friends and also with members of the opposite sex. It's also a period whereby they find a need to develop their self-identity and a sense of self-worth, of knowing who they are and who they want to be in the future. And so for some, they also have to take on added responsibilities like taking care of their siblings or taking care of their family if their family have some financial issues. So these changes and transitions can lead to increased stress, increased experience of stress over a prolonged period, and also increased uncertainty over about the future. So because of these 2 broad categories of factors, young person, youths are more vulnerable to experiencing mental health challenges. And at our counseling center, we see a lot of young persons and youth, and most of them come in presenting with stress and concerns about school demands, about relationships, about not knowing who they are, not finding meaning in life. Also, a lot of them come in with anxiety issues and issues with depression.
That's very insightful, Dr. Siew. How then does Shan You support these youth through your services?
Yeah, so Shan You operates 2 centers. So we have Shan You Counseling Center and Shan You Wellness Community. Shan You Wellness Community actually helps mainly elderly beneficiaries. So at Shan You Counseling Center, we provide professional counseling services to the community, and that includes youths and young persons. About 10 to 15% of our clients are in the 16 to 20 years age group, And about 50 to 55% of our clients are in the 21 to 30 years age group. So that means that about 60 to 70% of our clients are either youths, adolescents, or they are young person aged 18 to 30. And so our counseling services to this to young person come to us with a range of issues, mostly mental health related issues and relationship issues. And the Singapore Mental Health Study shows that young person aged 18 to 34 in Singapore are more likely to experience mental health issues, are more likely to have onset of mental health conditions compared to individuals from the other age groups. At the same time, we try to keep our counseling services affordable and accessible to young person and youth. So we have started the My Community Counseling Fund. So it's a fund that is supported 100% by donation from the public, donation from corporate organizations. And we use this fund to provide counseling subsidies to individuals and families with financial difficulties and limitations. And that includes youth and young persons. And so very often when a student, a full-time student, come to us and seek our counseling services, we will offer them additional subsidies to our counseling services. So oftentimes we'll offer them 50% or 75% additional subsidies to our counseling fees. And just another point to add is that the recent Singapore mental health study, sort of recent because that was conducted in 2016, found that about 78% of people in the community who have mental health conditions do not seek professional help, right? So that means that only about 22% of people in the community seek help for their mental health condition. And also for those who do seek help, there's also a significant treatment delay. So for example, persons with clinical depression, it takes them about a year to seek help. For people with generalized anxiety disorder, it takes them about 2 years before they seek help. And this is actually the data for those who do seek professional help. So as I mentioned, about 78% of people with mental health conditions do not seek professional help. So our counseling services in the community actually helps to reduce the mental health treatment gap and the treatment delay for young person living with mental health challenges.
So that's really interesting, Dr. Siew. So how then is Shan You trying to reduce the mental health treatment gap and encouraging youth to come in earlier for treatment?
Yes, that's a good question, and that's a bridging question to the next kind of programs, next initiative that we are doing for young person and youth. So we are aware that it's actually important to help young persons understand more about mental health issues so that they would not be so affected by the social stigma of mental health conditions. And we are also aware that it's also important to empower young person to take better care of one's mental well-being and also to support their friends with mental health challenges, right? So we have actually started an initiative to reach out to youth and young persons. And also as a secondary objective of this initiative, when we reach out to them through this Why Care Walking Their Shoe initiative, they also get to know more about our counseling services and about our counseling center and how we can help them with our counseling. So a bit about Why Care and Walking in Their Shoes. Why Care as a whole, the objective, the intention is really to empower a young person affected by mental health challenges to recover and live well, and also to prevent youth suicide. As you probably know, suicide is the leading cause of death for a person aged 10 to 29 in Singapore. So each youth suicide could have been prevented. And I can say that with almost full confidence that each youth suicide could have been prevented if they have got the support and help that they needed at the right time. And so one of the key objectives of Why Care is to prevent youth suicide through this initiative called Walking Their Shoes. So Walking Their Shoes is an immersive exhibition that features the stories of 5 individuals. And these are real life individuals with real life experiences of youth mental health challenges and suicidality, right? So for Why Care, we have produce both a physical exhibition and a virtual exhibition. And this virtual exhibition is hosted on a microsite. The microsite is ycare.sg, so that's ycare.sg. And so the microsite or the virtual exhibition contain audio stories of these 5 amazing individuals, as well as psychoeducation content about how to better take care of one's mental well-being, or how to support someone with mental health challenges. And so for participants of either the physical exhibition or the virtual exhibition, they would be invited to walk in the footsteps of 3 young persons who have survived their suicidal acts, a mother who lost her only son to suicide, and this son passed away at age 19, and a young person who lost a friend. Again, this friend passed away at age 19 years, right? And Why Care Walking Their Shoes was produced for young person aged 18 and above. So the audio stories and the psycho-educational content that is part of the exhibition were conceptualized and written for young person aged 18 and above. Why we actually target young person aged 18 and above, as I have mentioned previously, these are the age group that are more likely to develop mental health conditions as compared to other age groups in the community. So a sort of a important objective of Why Care is really to ask participants, as they view the exhibit, as they experience the exhibit, to think about why we would choose to care about something that is bigger than each of us. Why we would choose to care about youth mental health, and why we would choose to care about not just preventing youth suicide, but preventing suicide in the community.
That's a really interesting approach that you got there. So with all the things that you've been doing, what do you find the most meaningful about the work?
In terms of work with young persons, it's quite similar to working with our other clients from the other age groups. So in terms of working with adolescents or young person aged 18 and above, I think there are a number of areas that are fulfilling. So for one, hopefully in terms of our counseling services, hopefully we are helping to facilitate their mental health recovery, right? So in terms of mental health recovery, it's sort of like a generic term, but what we are focusing on and what is most fulfilling is that we are helping to elevate our young clients' distress, pain, and suffering, right? Through counseling, through providing therapeutic support. And on the other end, we are also helping to help them to understand and realize that they can find hope and joy in their life, despite their mental health challenges, or if they have recovery from their mental health challenges. So at the same time, it's also actually quite fulfilling to help them to learn and develop skills and resources to help them cope with their mental health challenges. And again, there's actually a deeper aspect to that. So essentially in counseling, we are helping them to find effective ways to respond to what is happening within them, what is happening in terms of the thoughts, the emotions, the bodily sensations that they're experiencing, and also to find effective ways to respond to what's happening in the external environment. And as part of that is about learning that there are many things in life that are beyond one's control, right? And if there are things in life that's beyond one's control, we have to switch focus away from that and start focusing on what is within one's control. And within the sphere of what is within one's control, helping clients, and including young clients, to make good choices in their lives and to take effective actions in accordance with what is important to them, in accordance with their personal values. And that would also mean helping them to identify and clarify what is important to them, what matters to them most, right? And so helping them to identify and clarify what do they value most in different domains of life, in terms of their personal growth and development, in terms of their self-identity, in terms of their academic study, in terms of their friends, in terms of their family, right? And when they learn to make good choices and take effective actions in accordance to what's important to them, what matters most to them, we are helping them to start to, or we're helping them to live better and more meaningful lives.
With all this mental health awareness, I think most of us are more mindful of looking out for each other. How should we, as lay people, be sensitive as we interact with family and friends and the community?
I think as a community, each of us can do more to alleviate the distress, the struggles, the suffering of those around us, and that includes young persons. How we can do that is that we can learn to be present to the people that we are interacting with without judging. We can learn to listen better and listen more deeply to try to understand the experience of the person. We can respond after listening to understand. We can respond with empathy and compassion, and we can after that we can make choices and take actions based on what we think is important to help the person that we're interacting with, right? So I think these are actually the best gifts that we can give to the person that we are interacting with. So whether it's a young person or someone in the community or a stranger that we are just having brief interaction. For example, if you go to the supermarket or you go to a McDonald's, right? So these are the best gifts that we can actually give to other people. And in doing so, we can, as a community, help to alleviate all the pain and suffering that are going on around us, because we don't really know what is happening in the minds and in the experience of people we interact on a day-to-day basis.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Dr. Siew, for sharing with us all the information about the youth, the challenges they face, as well as tips for how we can be present for the community.
Thank you very much.